It is our pre-agenda meeting for the month of March. And with that, we are called to order. We do have all board members present this evening. Good evening. And we'll begin with an invocation. If you will, bow your heads. Father God, we thank you for the beauty of this day, for the changing seasons. We thank you for the opportunity to come together tonight. We ask that you be with us as leaders within this community, both the staff and elected officials, that we may do your work within our community, that we may build stronger relationships within our community, that we may improve infrastructure, and that we may enhance the quality of life for all that live and work here. Amen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, board members, we've got a number of things this evening. The first will be to set our agenda for next Tuesday night's regular meeting. And so we'll dive into that, and then we have a community input session following that. So with that, we'll dive right in. We'll review our March 11th regular meeting agenda. We have call to order, with that being me. It will actually be Mayor Pro Tem. I'll be traveling for work on Tuesday, and so I will not be here. So Mayor Pro Tem Sechrist will do that for us. Do we have a volunteer to do the invocation on Tuesday night? Mr. Muhammad, thank you, sir. And Mayor Pro Tem will lead the Pledge of Allegiance. And then we'll have an opportunity for additions or deletions to the agenda. We will have recognitions. I know of one recognition that Mayor Pro Tem wants to make. If you'll go ahead and mention that, and then we can see if there are other recognitions.
I want to recognize Sylvia Chilcott, former board member and former Mayor Pro Tem here in Spencer, Chilcott. She passed away last week. And also I want to recognize the North Rowan High School basketball team who made it to the third round of the playoffs, and their coach.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Are there other recognitions that the board would like to make on Tuesday? Hearing none, are there any staff recognitions that need to be made, Peter?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. All right, so we'll have those two. All right, we'll have public comment, and then we'll move to our consent agenda. On that consent agenda, right now there are 4 items: our approval of regular minutes, a budget ordinance for insurance reimbursement, one for Public Works and one for the police department, and then a clerical correction to a budget ordinance. As we go through tonight, and let us know too if there are any other items that are shown on the regular agenda for Tuesday that you'd like to move to the consent agenda. So we have item 8, to consider authorizing the town manager to execute a grant agreement with Carolina Thread Trail for matching funds in support of the Great Trail State Program grant for the Standback Educational Forest, specifically for the Rocky Branch Loop Trail within the Standback Educational Forest. Joe, anything you want to say tonight on that, or do you want to present on that Tuesday?
I think the title of the item pretty well explains it. We were contingently awarded a $25,000 grant to go toward our Great Trail State Program grant that we have for the Standback Forest, and those awards have not been made yet. In the event we are awarded funds, the Carolina Thread Trail will provide an additional $25,000 that will go as part of our match toward the grant program. And so they've sent an agreement for the manager to consider. It's pretty straightforward, and so I'm happy to explain it again on Tuesday night, or perhaps it's a consent item.
Board, what's your preference?
Joe, is this a 1-for-2 match? Is that what I read? So for every dollar we put in, they give us 2. Is that what I read?
You know, I get so confused. I've written so many applications.
So many of them.
I think it's a 2-to-1 match. Yes, up to 500. I believe that the The totality of the project is around $460,000, and that we have assurances from some community partners to pay for the match. And so there are not actually any town funds in this one.
Right, so again, this particular item is about the 25,000 from the thread trail to go
Right.
towards matching funds that we're estimating to be hopefully 230,000 that would match 460 from the state. So
That's right.
altogether,
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
that altogether adds up to approximately 700.
So they, the thread trail has asked us to, for purposes of documentation, enter into an agreement on the disbursement of the funds.
Okay.
And it is contingent, so if we're not awarded this grant, we would not receive the Carolina Thread Trail funds as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board, any other questions? You want this as a regular item or consent agenda?
Regular item.
Okay, thank you. Next item is number 9, is to consider appointing Barbara M. Moran to the Historic Preservation Commission for a 4-year term expiring on April 30th, 2029. That will obviously be a regular agenda item. Kyle, do we know if Ms. Moran is planning to be here? Okay, very good. Thank you. Item 10 will be to consider awarding an Historic Preservation Incentive Grant in the amount of $1,000 to Randall and Molly Berth for a historic stone retaining wall repair project.
Mayor, if I may, we're actually would like to withdraw that item from the agenda and replace it with a different item in its place, just to keep the numbering, so we can talk about that additional item in a minute if you like. But this one we're asking to withdraw. Okay.
All right. So item 10 that will be pulled. We'll replace that with a different item here momentarily. The next item is to consider awarding a Salisbury Avenue Corridor Improvement Grant of $2,000 to Brandon Levi Collier for a project to repair and restore a historic service station at 712 South Salisbury Avenue. Board, any questions on that? And I assume, Kyle, you'll have an update on that for us on Tuesday, right? Okay, great. All right. And then we have our departmental reports, town manager report, and question comments from mayor and board in executive session if needed. What is the other item that staff would like to add?
So you should have it before you. It's an add-on item related to a subrecipient agreement, grant agreement related to the finishing company property. You'll recall that at a previous meeting, we received the Economic Development Due Diligence Grant from the North Carolina Railroad Company, and we have been in discussions with, in terms of the subject property, the developers and their consultants, as well as Centralina and their consultants related to the EPA Brownfields Grant. And so we're to the point that we would like to align all of the scopes of work involved in a subrecipient grant agreement to the developer, Samet Corporation, would allow us to do that and get everything lined up for those funds to pass through us into the subrecipient. So that is, and this all kind of came together in the last few days in terms of some of the pieces on that. And so that's why we're asking to add this to the agenda for Tuesday.
Okay, board, so there's a request to add that is item 10 to the consent or to the regular agenda. Steve, I assume that you'll be able to provide on Tuesday an update to the board, kind of, because I know this plays into the larger picture of redevelopment of that site and what's going on there. Okay, thanks. All right, board, any questions? All right, anything else on the agenda that needs to be added for Tuesday?
Excuse me, you said you're going to insert this one in as number 10, right? Okay.
Yes.
Just want to make sure.
It'll replace the current 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't able to update. There is a need for executive session on for what's number 2.
Was this the one Joe talked with you about? So potential honorarium type related to naming opportunities and such. Joe, are you still prepared for that on Tuesday, or is the timing such that we ought to wait? Okay.
So that will be tonight or Tuesday night? Tuesday.
Unless Well, we may have a little bit of time. We could perhaps take care
we
of
start.
that.
Let's go ahead and do it tonight.
We could. It appears like we're running a little ahead of schedule in advance of our consultant arriving for the remainder of the evening. So we might be able to accomplish that this evening if you see. You think you can, Joe? Yep.
Wow, way to single Leslie out. She has to promise to come back though.
What did I do this week?
All right.
Mr. Barrett,
Yeah.
there was, on Mr. Blunt's report, I read a couple of things that I had a question about. Can I ask him that now? Or do I need to ask him that for Tuesday?
Well, I don't know if the stuff that he's going to have to prepare for Tuesday. I'd say go ahead and fire away.
Well, one of the things that, is in reading through some of this, do we have some additional housing that's going in on Hawkinstown?
We have another project in the works. It's not a closed deal yet, but it is moving ahead.
Okay. There was something in here about InnoSpec and a rail spur. Would the North Carolina Railroad Association or Foundation have some funding for something like that?
Grants are available, and that's what that conversation was about.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We've directed them to those.
Oh, okay. And then I wondered who you were going to cite about your source of quotes. That you did that for the other two, but you left the one about all the questions.
It was an unknown quote.
Unknown. Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Board, anything else? Any other things for departmental reports that need to be clarified for Tuesday, or additional information that you will need for Tuesday? Okay. Hearing none, we have reached the end of our agenda for this evening's session. And so we will entertain a motion to go into executive session. When we come out of executive session, we will move into our annual planning session. We will not adjourn tonight. After our annual planning session, part one with our community members, we will recess tonight until tomorrow morning at 8:30. So we'll entertain a motion to go into executive session briefly before we open our annual planning session.
So moved. Mayor, if I may, it will be for the purpose of GS 143.318.11, Section 2, to prevent the premature disclosure of an honorary degree, scholarship, prize, or similar award.
Thank you, sir. So there's a motion by Mr. Muhammad to go into executive session. Second by Mr. Howell. All in favor? Okay. All opposed? All right. We are in executive session. We will be brief, and we will begin at 6 o'clock. We've had our pre-agenda meeting. We've moved right into our community feedback session. Thank you to our community that has shown up this evening. We are going to probably, I guess, improvise a little bit on our agenda based on the number of folks that we do have here this evening, or lack thereof. So what we're going to do, I'll turn it over to Peter. I do want to welcome Jeff Emery. Jeff is with us this evening. Jeff has been instrumental. Many of you have met him through our Creating Outdoor Recreational Economies program that we went through over the last year. And Jeff was kind of our liaison and really helped lead us through that process. So we had a great chance to work with you on that. Appreciate it. And glad that you are offering your services to help facilitate some of these strategic planning sessions around the state for various governmental organizations. And so he's with us to help us this evening and tomorrow. And welcome. Thank you. And Peter, I'll turn it over to you, and you kick us off.
Yes, and thanks again, Jeff, and to our staff who's put a lot of work into preparing for tonight and the next day to come as well. And to all of you, our mayor and board, for taking the time out of your schedules to go through this important process with us. This helps us take stock of where we are and then look ahead in the short term and the long term to what our needs are. And you know, we're going to go through a number of topics over the next day and a half, and we'll come out with a refreshed set of priorities that we will use to guide budget development over the next months. And so again, we appreciate everybody who's come out to be a part of it, our community members who are here, and we're excited. So based on the crowd tonight, we think that instead of doing the breakout system that we had envisioned, we can kind of keep things together in-house, still kind of go through the same process of updates from staff, but then maybe having more of just a working dialogue through these questions, looking through our priorities of, you know, what's working well in this area, what could be better, what's the next step, and where should we grow, and what other questions are out there. So that's the goal for the next bit, is to go through our current priorities and the updates on those, and kind of talk about what we've been hearing, what has the community been sharing with us, and invite the public to chime in along the way. And you know, we've gotten feedback over the course of the last months and year that I think can inform the discussion tonight. But that'll be the process, and we'll wrap up, and it'll give us the flavor to kind of keep in mind as we proceed through the topics tomorrow. And so, unless there's any questions, I will at this point turn it over to Jeff, who will shepherd us throughout the process.
Well, thank you, Peter, and again, thank you to the board of Town of Spencer for having me. I enjoyed working on the project you referenced. And just a brief background, I was a city manager in my first career for 29 years, 18 and a half years in the city of Lincoln, and I retired from local government and I went to work for the North Carolina Department of Commerce. I work in the division of the Main Street and with a rural planning center. There are 8 prosperity zones in North Carolina, and my official title is Community Economic Development Director. And we provide primarily strategic planning services across the state. But each of the prosperity zone planners, I guess we come from various backgrounds and have a different set of talents or things we are different areas of expertise. And from being a former manager, I have facilitated many budget sessions or retreats, or what you want to call them, when I was a manager. Then that's something I've done since I've been with Commerce, and it's something I enjoy, and I really commend the town. And just talking to Peter and the mayor and looking at the information you've put together, I think it's impressive. the way you do this, and I think giving your citizens the opportunity to comment and the way you've laid out your priorities, and it's just really impressive the way you do that. And I commend you for that. I commend you for having this session, and I can tell your staff has put a tremendous amount of work into this. And I think allowing citizens to comment speaks very highly of you. As far as facilitation goes, and I guess that be more tomorrow. I'm not here to participate in the meeting. I'm here to facilitate the meeting, and basically that is to help keep the meeting on schedule. If there are items that there needs to be consensus on, I want to help lead that discussion, and items that we do want to set goals or priorities, help you lead that and determine those. A good planning session or retreat to me is the catalyst for really getting the budget season started. Because to me, a budget is a strategic plan, because your budget is wrapped around setting your goals and priorities. Goals and priorities have to be incorporated into your annual budget and your strategic plan. So really, as I said, I do a lot of strategic planning for my communities, and I think a budget, and I think this process is strategic planning. So that's what I want to be here to help you do. I think this is the fourth one I've done this year. It's something I enjoy, and I look forward to it. I do, and this is your session. I have just a few very basic ground rules that I'll like to go over, and when we start hearing from department heads, I just ask that everyone be respectful of the speaker. We want everyone to participate in the discussion. I call that participate, but do not dominate. Let everyone have an opportunity to make comments. Ask for clarity. If there's something that you do not maybe fully understand, or you need more clarity, do not hesitate to stop me or say, back up, I want to understand this better. That's perfectly fine. We want to respect varying opinions. It's perfectly okay to maybe have disagreement, or maybe to look at things differently, as long as you do that in a respectful way. And I ask everyone to be mindful of the schedule. We are on a tight schedule tomorrow, and I really like the idea of the tour you set up to go look at various things. That's unusual for a planning session, but I think it's an extremely good idea to let everyone actually see some of these things you're talking about. So that's another thing I commend the town on. So this should be a fun time as well. You're looking out for the town's interest and trying to set the goals for the future, and I just hope I can play a small part in helping us have a productive evening tonight and productive day tomorrow. Does anyone have any questions for me before we proceed on with tonight? Anything you want to ask me, or anything you want to see out of the session tomorrow that you want me to focus on, or just any comments or questions for me?
Board, any questions at this point? I would like this real quickly to go through, and if you'll just tell basically the one thing to Mr. Emery that you would like to get out of the planning session, what you're hoping to get out of it as board members, so that he can be aware of kind of where our minds are and what our focus is coming out of this planning session. So Ms. Sledge, we'll start with you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for giving me this opportunity. I guess the one thing that I hope to get out of it is feedback on how we can make every dollar that we have available go as far as we can. Knowing that we have key projects and key ideas that, are on the list. And I guess That's it.
Great, thanks. Mr. Muhammad?
Yes, I guess I'm going to piggyback off what Ms. Slade said as well. Feedback, but also too, just seeing where we can continue to grow and use everything instrumentally as far as funds or funds that we can receive as well to better the town overall.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Mayor Pro Tem?
I'm especially excited about the tour, going to see all of that, and it will be together. And I think that's going to be a real exciting part of the day. And I'm looking for some ways to get our community more involved in everything that we're doing up here and make them more aware of how it's being done. And I think we're stepping out in the right direction to do that. So I'm looking forward to seeing an increase in civic participation.
Thank you. Mr. Howell?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing for me is, we definitely got some mild pushback on raising the tax rate, which I get it. So I think it's important that as we're heading into a downturn cycle, that we make the budget as tight a fit as possible, while at the same time making sure we're not going in the red, but that we're making use of every penny of our citizens' dollars.
Ms. Moody?
I know we worked really hard and we had some really clear and concise goals last year, and I think that really impacted a lot of the decisions that were made throughout the year. And so I'm just hoping that we can come out of this next planning session with similar goals that are very well, shaped, very well communicated, because I think that really benefited us last year.
Thank you. Mr. Miller?
I agree, excuse me, I agree with most everybody here. Our tax situation, that we increased taxes last year, was kind of an uproar with some of the people, so we got to be very tight with our budget this year as well. At the same time, we know that we're an older town with older infrastructures that we got to keep in mind that we somehow or another we need to work on, possibly work with grants if possible, or some way to help us with some of these funds to help keep up our infrastructure as far as that.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. And so for me personally, what I'm hoping we can get out of it, I'll talk to this during my introductory remarks tomorrow morning, but the theme that we've kind of set for the strategic planning is taking the next step. Over the past several years, we've worked very closely together, not only as a board, but as town staff and our community as well, to bring a lot of dreams and lofty goals and ambitions that many years ago we probably thought never would happen. We've been able to bring those to life. And so that's, we've been able to celebrate those accomplishments. We're starting to see the physical results of some of those initiatives that we've had. But I think the big question now, we're at a point that it's like, all right, what's our next step? What's the next step that we take forward as a town and as a community? And I think over the last year, we've seen kind of some of the need through input from the community. I think what we've recognized is we're investing a lot in new infrastructure and things like that. But then the question has come up, how do we make sure that we're investing in our existing infrastructure, whether it be parks and recreation programming and existing facilities? How do we make sure that we are fully utilizing our assets to their best ability and highest and utmost use? And then the other piece is with our aging infrastructure, making sure that we are keeping sight of that, making sure that we're being proactive in reinvesting in that infrastructure. I think the big thing is making sure maybe this is a reset for us to look at all that we have done, to celebrate that, but then to look at what's before us and make sure that we're not proceeding with blinders on, that we're not missing certain things that are needed within our community, and making sure that we're meeting the needs of all of our citizens and businesses within Special.
Thank you. I was, I think that's great to hear that. I've been talking to Peter and a couple of staff yesterday, just a couple of comments when we move forward. As a manager, I always thought that one of the most difficult things about local government was providing services, particularly because citizens have a different idea of what citizens, that they're most important to them. And I noticed Peter put together in a package, for example, in the city I managed last, I used to say that, well, I didn't say it, but it was a fact, Just the ad valorem taxes alone we collected just barely paid for the police and fire department. And I think I saw you're about the same way here, or maybe a good percentage of it. And also when you look at by the time you pay salaries and then your just basic operating expenses, there's not a whole lot left in your general fund you can cut. So I think a lot of times the average citizen thinks, oh, there's just so many things the government can go in and talk about local government. I don't know enough about state or federal to talk intelligently. But in local government, the majority of your expense is personnel and just those basic operating expenses. And so I think that sometimes can make it, can be challenging for a local government to be able to do that. Some people want to think, oh, my taxes should pay for everything. Well, in reality, they can't. They don't. So, and that makes it tough being a local elected official when you're dealing with tax rates and getting feedback about tax rates. So it's important to be able to try to explain that. I love to tell the story. I remember back maybe around the year 2009, 2010, when the economy was really, really bad. And I was watching the news one night and they were interviewing, I believe, a lady from the city of Charlotte. And the news reporter said, do you think in these tough times the city of Charlotte should be cutting their budget? And she said, oh, absolutely they should cut their budget. And they said, well, one of the things they were talking about, she was standing outside of an aquatic center, and they said, well, one of their proposals is to start closing the aquatic center. She said, oh, they can't do that. I bring my daughters here like 3 times a week. They love to swim. And my thought was, that's it. That's why being in government is so hard. That aquatic center is so important to you. There's 80% of the people in Charlotte probably never stepped foot in it. And that's why government is so hard. What's important to one person is not to another. But you should have seen the look on her face. Oh, they can't do that. So y'all all know this, but I think sometimes making citizens aware of things like that can be a challenge. So
I think the only thing that unites the citizens is potholes.
So if I may, Jeff, one thing I want to, when we're talking about a bit of a revised approach for tonight, we had originally planned on, we have our 5 areas, our 5 focus areas, and we were going to have staff, and this was going to be really fun to watch, to see, how they split up with pairs of 2, basically 3 minutes to report out, and then we were going to break out and have these 10-minute rotations. So I want to just get your feel on, would you like to still do the quick 3-minute report out, and then we'll circle back by topic, or do you want to kind of do the report out and stay on that topic for more of an extended discussion and then move on to the next? Any feelings on that?
I think, board, it's your preference, but tomorrow, obviously, we're going to dive in depth to several of these areas, like police and fire capital needs and some of our public works projects. So perhaps we go ahead and just get the update from everybody, the full update, and then we can dive in.
So we're gonna stick on that 3-minute time frame. We'll go through and then we'll circle back and then dive in on each. So
sounds good.
All right, Jeff. I think.
Do you just want to go into order that this agenda is?
Yeah, that would be good. I think the infrastructure, facilities, and properties being the first. Yeah.
Okay. And that's to be 3 minutes, correct?
That's right. We're gonna
start the clock.
So this is the area that Joel and I are assigned to as far as the key priority infrastructure, facilities, and property. And all of if you turn one page over, there's sort of a standard, just a couple bullet points that are added. Don't get at any point, Joel. The first thing is activate Parks and Recreation with staffing monitoring partnerships. Process has been, we've been working on this. There has been a job description that's been created for the active living coordinator. I think we're right on the cusp of going to advertisement for the position that would begin in April, and so it's funded for the last part of the year. One of the areas of focus for that position will be working in partnership with organizations such as the Rusty Home Senior Center, the Museum of Doll and Toys, Transportation Museum, Spencer Partnership, Library, and other organizations throughout the community. One thing that you'll have an opportunity to see tomorrow under the category of strategic acquisition and use of property for public use. On our tour, we're going to go to Standback Forest, and we will go to the house at 401 11th Street
to see the schematic plans for the adaptive reuse of that house, and also the landscape. The architect and the landscape architect will be there to take feedback from the board. The other thing is to further implement the Parks and Recreation Master Plan and the core strategic plan. And Jeff is well familiar with that. He helped facilitate that process of developing the core strategic plan. Projects that are currently underway that derived directly from the master plan and the core plan include the Spencertown Park, you see going up over my shoulder here, the award of the Connecting State Trails Grant for construction of the Grants Creek Blueway Trailhead. That project is in a due diligence phase at this moment. We're seeking the environmental reviews from state and federal agencies. And then pursuit of expansion of the Standback Forest through Grant Trails State Grant Program funds to build the trail system out. And then the final thing I'll mention is that at a recent meeting, the board voted to create the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, which is one of our goals, and we are now accepting applications for those for positions on that board. We've gotten 2 so far. Okay. And one of the prerogatives of the Board of Aldermen is that you get to nominate and suggest people to be on boards, and we'd love to have your input on some folks that might serve on that 5-person group. So, Joel, I dominated, sorry, but I covered it. Did you want to just allow the next?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
do that, and then we can circle back and we'll go through input from board and community. Thank you all. Oh, and we should give Mr. Taylor an opportunity. Was there anything that you wanted to add? Since Joe, before
he told me to handle.
Joe handled everything. Just a few notes on the infrastructure side. We have a lot of projects going on right now from the 17th Street, which you'll hear more about tomorrow. The dam at Standback Forest, we're in the process of it as well. The CCAP, which we're getting ready to wind up, I hope, and get that taken care of. The stormwater mapping that we're having done right now, we were actually in a meeting this week about it. So that's progressing nicely. And then, of course, the paving priority and what we're going to go into this spring and into the fall with more of like a patching, site instead of going for full street reconstruction. So that's all I needed to add in for infrastructure, but that's where we're heading. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So don't start my time until Mike gets to the areas. Okay. I'll preface my remarks with reminding you that all of this was predicated by this board adopting a revised development ordinance several years back, and then about 3 years ago revising the comprehensive land use plan that led to this process. And I was asked to comment on the envisioning and cultivating high quality and prosperous community for all, but specifically supporting zoning changes to encourage well-managed growth and investment in line with the recent planning efforts. I thought I would let the numbers speak for themselves. So I went back and researched, and over the last 3 years, we have had 9 annexations, which brought 263 acres into our town limits. We have handled 28 subdivisions. We have done 65 rezonings. I have issued a total of 58 single-family home permits. out of about 300 zoning permits that I issue. But in the very near future, we'll be issuing another 141 for the Hawkins Meadows townhomes. And then, as I was asked earlier, another subdivisions on Hawkinstown Road, that would be another 28. Y'all have been hearing about the commercial and industrial projects for the last several years. This is a list of those, and I won't bother to reiterate those because you have them in writing in your package. More important than the list is what the impacts of those would be. If you add up the 58 that I've already issued, the 141 townhomes, and the 28 others, totals 227 single-family homes. If you value those at $250,000 each, then you see a $56 million tax base increase and 624 new people coming to our town based on 2.75 people per house, which is our average. The industrial list that I just showed you would total up to right at 3 million square feet of industrial buildings at a generalized number of $100 a square foot. That's $300 million in tax base for the town. And who can count the number of jobs that might bring to our community? In perspective, that means that in the past 3 years, we've had a 15% increase, or with those numbers, excuse me, not in the past 3 years, but based on those numbers, a 15% increase in physical size from the annexations, 16% increase in the number of homes, 19% increase in population, and a 15% increase in our tax base from residential growth. Those are all numbers that you should be proud of, any town should be proud of, something to brag about.
If I can jump in just real quickly,
Stop my timer though.
that 350 million potential increase in tax base, just this is out of the current year budget ordinance. Our assessed values for the current year is about $353 million. So just if that were to come to fruition, that means our tax base will have doubled essentially.
Whoa. And that slide tells you the story of that 3 million square feet, 3 million square feet, $300 million in tax base would be an increase just from the industrial side of 79% of your current tax base. And I don't want you to start spending the money yet, but that's the kind of numbers we're looking at. That is basically what I've come to tell you. There is one more slide that I probably didn't have on this one, but basically I would put a check mark by both of those strategic points that I put up on the first slide and say that we have accomplished it. There it is. Okay. So job accomplished, task accomplished, whatever it was Bush had on that sign on the aircraft carrier.
Done.
Mission accomplished.
And still work to be done. Still work to be done. That's right. And y'all done a great job.
I'm very impressed with the projected population increase, because as a lifelong resident of Spencer, I'm going to tell you, we stay right at 3,000 that my whole life, except when the shops were open. Maybe, but I think it was right at 3,000 then too. But getting that is going to just help our community so much, and it's going to make a big impact, positive impact on our schools. That's a good thing.
There are tipping points in the growth process. 5,000 is one that y'all need to keep in mind, and I think that's where we're heading in the next decade for sure. So if we hit 5,000, a lot of things happen at that point, from commercial development, industrial development, census tract coverage, et cetera, et cetera.
Can we import some people?
I'll turn it over to
Mr. Blunt, super quick question about that $100 a square foot. Is that a fixed real property, or that is not inclusive of any business personal?
That's construction of the building.
Okay, yeah.
Square foot.
So yeah.
If you have a warehouse, that's a fairly accurate number for what your tax value will be. If you have a high-tech manufacturing, it's just a drop in the bucket to what the internal cost is.
What I will say to the board is the latest trend in where a lot of these buildings may be headed that are being planned is maybe away from distribution warehousing and more towards other technologies, which I would expect that's a conservative estimate, as Mr. Blunt has presented to you.
A metal building basically is $100 a square foot, just a standard metal building. So if you get into a nice building, a lot of internal upfit with high-tech, high-cost equipment that could be twice that. So,
Cool. Excellent.
And I'd just like to remind the board, is we hear it all the time, but the reality is, especially for small towns, if you're not growing, you're dying. I think there's a lot of truth to that. And so, the fact that we are growing, need to do it in a managed way, but I think it's a great sign of upward momentum for our town. Mr. Harris.
All right. I think I don't have any time left, but if you'll indulge me for just a minute or two. So I do want to say I think it is, of course, very forward-thinking of the town to have a focus on affordable housing as a priority. Of course, we know that across North Carolina, there is a housing crisis. I've spoken about this a few times before the board. Housing prices are going up here in Rowan County. We're experiencing that as well. But also for a town like ours, where most of our residents are already living in older homes, the issue of the cost of maintaining those homes is also significant. So when we look at what local governments can do in the area of affordable housing, there can be a inclination towards pessimism because local governments have a sort of limited role in the housing situation. As we see, we are entering a period of significant uncertainty when it comes to federal funding. Most housing funding that comes to local governments either comes directly from the federal government or comes through state entities, it's still federal money. So we're seeing right now some uncertainty about funding. But I would say the federal funding that we have received previously through the Department of Commerce grant, the CDBG grant, this past year we have successfully completed 2 of those projects. I'm very happy to report that to you because it seemed like for years I would come up and just give you small updates about why we haven't started. We have completed 2 projects and we have 2 additional projects which are quickly approaching the bidding phase. So we do anticipate that those monies will all be expended early next year. And when we look at what future funding we may be able to expect for housing, at least from the federal government, that may be more limited. And so that brings me to my next point, which is I would encourage the board as we do move forward to consider creativity as pretty much the only solution when it comes to trying to make some progress or provide solutions in the area of housing. And one of those creative solutions that we've already started developing is, of course, our partnership with the UNC School of Government with the Our State, Our Homes program. So we have actually already been to one of those forums, and it was very fun. It was very successful. Basically, we are starting the process of an 18-month program where we are going to be partnering with other municipalities across the state to put our heads together to learn about what local governments can do with the limited funding that we have to make some progress in the area of affordable housing. So we are very much looking forward to that program, and we're going to continue to do that. And I would encourage the board, again, as you look to the future, to consider other creative partnerships, other sort of outside-the-box solutions where, with limited money, what can we still do to make progress in the area of housing? So I think that's everything I wanted to mention. And again, I think it's a great thing that the board does have a priority on affordable housing. And given the worsening situation with housing prices and the cost of maintaining homes, I would encourage you to maintain that as a priority. Do you have any questions for me? All right, sir.
All right, next is community public safety.
Mayor and board, how are you this afternoon?
Fine.
So for us, I feel like myself and Kyle both could probably stand up here for hours and tell you all the little things that we've done. But the big things that I really wanted to capture, especially for the growth and maintaining the ability for proactive services, and we're going to kind of get into the second section at the same time. Obviously, we onboarded 6 additional full-timers in April and June. And we were already well involved with our partnership in the schools, with the thought process that as we get into the lives of our youth, especially in fire prevention and community risk reduction. If we can make a difference there, maybe it'll stick with them. So our full-time staff, we have one shift that we are blessed that they love education, and especially fire education. And so I don't want to go into too much detail, but we're in the process of starting a program that will make us the second fire department in the entire state has implemented this program into elementary schools. So we're excited about that. And then tomorrow I will dive into a 5-year plan, and it covers both what I forecast as staffing needs as well as equipment and station needs over the next 5 years. I don't want it to scare you. Some of it's going to be a little scary, but I want to be able to stand here and say, hey, this is what I see in 5 years, right? So we can go and begin to plan for that. And then continue enhancements of staffing, technology, facilities, and equipment. As already spoke on, the addition of the 6 full-timers, the 3 full-time engineers and firemen. And then as of Saturday, I'm happy to announce that we will be putting our new fire engine into service. So that will allow us to move our 17-year-old truck that's currently our frontline apparatus to reserve. And although it's showing to be difficult, attempt to surplus a 30-year-old fire truck.
Good evening. We'll kind of double back on the continuing planning for growth and maintaining the ability to deliver service level that we currently offer. I always like coming up here after Steve has came up here because he presents the numbers, and the same numbers that Steve presents are the same numbers that affect us. So, you know, we appreciate the board's support. This past year, we were able to reclassify and promote 2 of our sergeants up to lieutenant, and then we were able to make a promotion to sergeant for our first full-time actual road patrol sergeant that will stay out there. He's working a 3 p.m. to 3 a.m. shift, so we've got 50% of our evening hours now covered with a supervisor. So obviously that's very important for us. I'm very thankful for it because I've only been woke up 1 time in the last week at 2 o'clock in the morning. So it's working out well for me, giving me a little bit of much needed sleep in the evening. So we're getting that structure that that what I call a real police department should have. You need to have that structure where there's, you know, a second and third in command, where if I'm not here, somebody else can take place and you know, step in and take care of business for us. So we're certainly happy about that, and then I will definitely be talking more tomorrow about the future needs and what we see going. The good thing is when Steve's able to provide us numbers that show the growth that is anticipated, I can look across the county at what that type of growth is causing other agencies to have to do. So fortunately, other agencies have already done what we're looking at now. So we have some pretty firm numbers, and it'll give us some good good indicators of what the next 5 years is going to look like for us. As far as enhancing technology facilities, definitely we know fleet has been a really big issue for us, really big. I've got a 5-year fleet plan that I'll be presenting tomorrow. It's not as bad as what I thought it was going to be. It's still not ideal. But we do know what needs to be done on that. I've got a couple of little sneaky things up my sleeve that may help us out on it. So we'll definitely go over that tomorrow. But this year we were able to replace the 2 vehicles with that second truck that was able to be purchased. So those are not upfitted yet. We're waiting on some additional funding that will be needed in July. But we do have parts on order for one of them. We anticipate it will be going to the shop within the next 3 weeks. So it'll be about 2 weeks after that. So somewhere around a month out, we'll be able to actually put one of those 2 in service, which will let us be ready to push one of those old Crown Vics back to the back line on the surplus line where it needs to be. And then obviously we've, you know, we're looking at enhancing our security camera program. We made some purchases of security cameras this year. We've already placed 2 of them in service at 8th Street Ballpark. And those allow us to not only be able to remotely monitor them, but they're motion activated where after hours, when the park is closed, nobody should be there. Night shift patrol officers can get activation notices saying, hey, somebody's down at 8th Street Ballpark at 2 o'clock in the morning. Nobody should be down there because the park is closed. So it lets them have instantaneous notice that they need to respond to the area and check out what's going on. So we've had pretty good luck for that. It gets, you'll be surprised how many animals are out there. So it does get through a lot. It goes off a lot, which is good and bad. But it has proven to let us see that there are people out there that shouldn't be out there at certain hours of the day and night. So, and we're going to be expanding that program. So obviously Stand Back Park, around the Carter House. That's gonna be the next place. We actually already have those cameras in our possession. So we just got to get those installed, and then we'll kind of gradually start installing them in any location that we can get internet service to. So that's going to be something that we're really going to concentrate on this coming budget year, is getting the full package kind of rolled out where we can monitor all of our local areas, and hopefully deter the crime before it occurs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is going to be community outreach and involvement.
So as far as community outreach goes, and Sky has a wonderful presentation for the mural projects going on. So I'll just touch on, with the social media and the website, we've been trying to put more information out there, making it more, concise information, but still having what's most important and trying to be eye-catching and, putting things up on the front of the building, the windows, trying to, get the word out there as much as we can, various ways. And, we've been trying some different things with the mailed newsletters and postcards, which I think might be adjusted a little bit again this year due to some scheduling things I've noticed. And we've been getting some really great coverage from Salisbury Post, as well as WBTV. There have even been some things on Memories Radio. We've started our neighborhood walks and talk of the town. And there have been several different things with local students, with civic education. Our fire and police departments both have presences in the schools. And today we actually, people from fire, PD, and Peter and I were at a career fair at North Rowan High School. Talked to a lot of kids, so hopefully that, might gain some interest and involvement. And continuing with the Justin Monroe Summer Fire Camp, that's been successful each year. And then at the library, Ms. McCraw has been continuing to have pretty much monthly events. She's working on the summer event right now, trying to get that in order. And then, working on growing existing and also new community events and participation. I've been trying to think of ways to, I'm a list person, so I've been kind of making lists of contacts. So I'm trying to reach out more with, when newsletters are coming out, so if you all know anybody who, please give me their contact information if you think they might have something that they want to get out there, community event-wise. And let's see, I think, Sky, if you want to do your presentation.
Hello, good morning, or good evening, Mayor.
Morning, it's afternoon for Chief Lanning.
Well, it's about to be, the time's about to change, so.
That is true.
It's only 1 hour though.
1 hour. It makes a difference though, it really makes that difference. All right, so my presentation was sort of geared towards more the public, but the first chunk of it is more reviewing what the mural project has done so far, so we can kind of breeze through that a little quickly. But if you could go to the second. So, as you all know, a couple of years ago, we were able to successfully restore 10 vintage advertisement signs in the downtown area. And thanks to efforts by Anna and Tammy for reviewing old files, we were actually able to finally identify that one missing sign on the side of Roger Dogs. And I will begin exploring funding to get that one restored as well. So, great. So here are some photos commemorating that work.
So we all want to know, what was it?
What was
It was another Coca-Cola sign. So we'll double up on that wall. So this was.
We got to get Coke to pay for that one.
Yeah, I would love that, but it was probably unlikely. Maybe we'll explore it. So this was the first mural done. This is done on the dollar side of the Dollar General at one of the entrances of the town. This is the second that is done on the former Ludwig Linoleum and Carpet store. And this is the Project Turn crowning achievement, the mural currently painted on the side of Spencer Town Hall, commemorating various aspects of the labor history of Spencer. So that is what we've done so far. Here's what we're going to do in the future. The other side of the Park Plaza building. We have a artist attached to that location, that is Lance Turner, and the general idea for that is to create a sort of a kaleidoscope image of local flora and fauna. He's got a very cool, distinct style. We'll have to taper it a little bit, but this is going to be a very fascinating piece.
Wow.
The next location is at the former Museum of Dolls, Toys, and Miniatures. The artist assigned to that location is Gina Franco, and she will be doing a piece that celebrates the former School of Watch and Jewelry Making that used to be in Spencer. The next location will be at the North Carolina Museum of Transportation's office building. We have 2 artists assigned to that location, and that piece will be geared more towards the park because it's going to have that wonderful front facing. It'll be installed on panels and will be going over top of the brick rather than being painted on directly onto the wall. And one of the very exciting ones is I have been in contact with the new property owner, and he has agreed to a piece that will go over top of the yellow train mural. The wall itself is quite old and fragile, and it will take some figuring about how that will exactly go, whether that will be we remove the paint, whether that will be we put panels over top. That is still being determined. But this will be a piece that really welcomes people into town, and instead of people, I've heard quite a few people being not sure what was on the wall. Like, I think the strangest one I heard was, "Are there salt and pepper shakers?" I'm really not sure. So it's a bit of a mystery mural. Paint was not done correctly when it was installed, but we're going to do it right this time, and this will be a piece that really lets people know that they are in an important location. So the people who make this possible are a wonderful little group called the Spencer Mural Selection Committee. We're a small, sparse, but scrappy group, but people do have to drop out as other difficulties in their lives and time commitments occur, and we are always looking for new volunteers to flesh out our numbers. So if someone you know might be interested, please ask them to reach out to me, give me a call, send me an email. I would love to hear about them. We would very much appreciate having more members with us for people who are wanting to know or be involved in what Spencer is becoming, which is a very exciting thing to be a part of. Okay, that is the presentation I've got. Thank you all.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks, Scott. All right, next is staff excellence. That's Peter and Heather.
That's right. Oh, Heather, if you want to come up, I'll talk, and you can chime in as you see fit.
She could be Vanna. She could be Vanna.
Sure. Okay, so in this area, we've got 3 priorities, and they are to ensure a high level of customer service and user-friendly processes to attract, retain, and develop staff who are committed to service and know they're valued, and to promote initiatives to support a diverse workforce that reflects our community. And so to start out with, on the first one about customer service and being user-friendly, and Heather, I think you'll have quite a bit to add into this, but we've had some successful training opportunities in recent months in this area, and we've also had a lot of good collaboration among all our departments when we look at our iWork customer portal and trying to get that functioning in a more helpful way. So Heather, if you want to jump in there and add a little in.
We participated in some of the webinars for our, just to make sure that we are using it to its fullest capabilities. And girls up front have pretty much, Allison has dove into that to make sure that she's using that and as a communication there.
And I would just say across the board, even with our kind of frontline, our departments that are out in the field working, I mean, that is also an effort about our level of service we're providing and our communication with the public. And I think our staff has done a great job in this area. Looking at attracting, retaining, and developing our staff, we are overall, even though we still have some challenging labor market for certain positions, we are in a really good position now compared to how we were several years back in terms of our vacancies in field positions and such. Right now, our main needs are in public works. We have one full-time position remaining in police, but we expect that to be filled in the near future. We've got a pending completion of a background on our final full-time police position. Tomorrow you're going to hear about the update on the Compton class study that's been underway, but that's a critical piece in this, and making sure we're staying attuned to not just the market conditions, but also the job functions, that the work that our staff's doing, and that we're accurately capturing their work. We've made several enhancements this year to a few policies related to our holiday bonus program, our bereavement leave, pay adjustment policies. You'll recall we've brought a few personnel policy adjustments to you, and appreciate your support on those changes to help us stay up to date in these areas. And Heather, anything you want to add in? Okay. And then in terms of supporting a diverse workforce that reflects our community, I'll say our career portal has really helped us in our process of filling these positions, having the technology in place to make it simple for people to find what's open and apply. It's been a process of getting our postings out there has just gone a lot smoother, I'd say, and I think everyone across our departments would agree on that. And then when you look at some of the things that we were talking about a little bit ago, whether it's our fire camp and like going to the career fair today, even some of the internship opportunities that we have, we're reaching potential candidates, we're reaching future public servants, and for an organization of our size to be working in these spaces at that level, I think our staff does a great job, and we've got a great team of professionals working here and supporting the services going out to the community.
On top of that, I haven't been on there to see exactly what jobs are being posted. So far, it went live in
Thank you. So Jeff, I think now the idea is to kind of circle back through these and
So I have a suggestion. Sure. Given the time, right? I think it would be good if we split up at this point and basically get into our individual groups that we were going to get in now that we've all heard, and that'll allow our public an opportunity, singular public, as well as our board members to split up, and that way we can go around, and I think it would be good to do the exercise that we talked about where now we've heard this, to be able to share what we know is going well, and maybe if there are areas that we know of for improvement or focus over the next year or 5 years. But I think it would help if we do that and we sit down, and I guess the request would be that we're all very honest with each other about what's going well, but then also where our works are and things that we can work to improve on, if that works. And so I think Jeff, I'll leave it to you time-wise, but we've got how many groups? 5, is that right?
Well, the original agenda said this part of the meeting was going to be from 6:40 to 7:30, and I realize we have, I guess, one citizen, but how much time do you think everyone of them will still need to go?
5 minutes per 5 minutes per group. Does that work? And we'll rotate.
What I'm trying to understand is who's rotating. Are you
Let's set the representatives for each group up.
Yep.
In a particular area.
Yep.
And then I think though we were going to have a board and a staff member. Yep. Let's do that differently. Let's have the staff members that are responsible for each one, and then the board and Leslie.
I got you.
We will split up into groups of maybe 2, and then just rotate around. Does that work?
Yep. So 5-minute rotations then?
Yes.
Yep.
Where it was originally going to be 10.
Yep.
Yeah. But that would have included the updates from everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. So you want to try to complete this exercise by what? 7:40?
Yeah. That sounds good.
Okay. Sounds good.
We're going, I'm going to work from Island, all right?
No. So what I want you to do is let's go ahead and split up this way. You two will go You'll start at one, we'll start at another, you two will start at one, and then you and Leslie will start at one.
Okay.
Does that work?
Great.
Which one do you want to start at?
Your choice. You're the first group, you get dibs.
And the staff
Who only made it to one group discussion? Oh, good job. What about 2? All right, what about 3? All right, we'll share the gold star. From what I heard, though, lots of good dialogue was happening, so thank y'all very much for doing that. Jeff, if you're cool with it, what I'd like to see us do is take just a few minutes to have the staff members just give a quick update on what you heard from these discussions, quick summary, and just take like no more than about 2 minutes for each group to give a quick update. Synthesize the information that you gained from all the groups. So who wants to go first? Joe wants to go first.
Infrastructure, facilities, and property. What's working well, how we're using grants and donations to maximize opportunities for community amenities. About that. Next steps, where should we grow? One of the things we talked about, the resolution of the old town hall building, demolition, the use of that property. Of course, new fire station is something that's on top of mind for a lot of folks. And that we need to be thinking about expansion into the what space for the police department, for example, has outgrown their space. And then, of course, the Stand Back Forest office on 11th Street. What could be better? We talked about equipment replacement through a capital reserve fund. Day-to-day infrastructure, having a reactive maintenance program so that we can quickly respond to citizen requests. And this would be tied to better communications with residents, to and from with residents about getting things done. And then master planning for our existing parks. And that would be something that would perhaps be taken up by our new Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. And then as far as any questions was a resolution around the Chicken Springs Dam property that we've been looking at as far as a potential acquisition and how that project plays out.
Great, thanks. Mr. Blunt.
We were not quite as structured as Joe and his efforts. We had a lot of discussion about affordable housing and how to address that situation in our community. We talked about how or if you could recruit businesses, commercial, retail, industrial to our community, and some discussion about ways to promote revitalization of the Salisbury Avenue corridor, both north and south. Is that about what we talked about? We only had 2 groups rotate through our room, so.
You didn't mention the study of the parking.
And that's on your agenda for tomorrow morning. There was a question about trying to improve the traffic flow through certain parts of our neighborhoods as a way of attracting people to those homes, and we will be addressing that in a presentation tomorrow.
Thank you. All right, who wants to go next?
So I'm going to wing this. We had one group, and I think we actually did this whole thing backwards. They took more notes than we did, but it's okay. So what is working well? The consensus was that practically myself and Chief Al received what could be considered a broken organization, and how we've turned that around, our visibility in the community, and how we have just completely transformed what we have received. What is next, or where should we grow? The biggest thing, and is kind of what we could do better too, is ensuring staff morale. And our talking point was, even if it's not compensation, what are other ways that we can show, whether it's us as department heads or as the town as a whole, we appreciate you, right? Far beyond saying we appreciate you. Because our staff knows that we appreciate them, but how can we as a collective unit prove and make that very visible to our staff? Because we believe that morale, as long as it is high, you may come to work for a lesser compensation rate, as long as you understand and believe that you're appreciated. That's about it.
That's great. And I'll say, Peter can speak to this. That was something we talked about within the staff excellence piece of it as well, is that culture building and absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right, next. That's right.
So we met with two groups. For the working well in this area, we just an all around good service and maintaining that. We do well at maintaining staff retention with the low turnover. Even though we're trying to fill some positions, we do have a low turnover. And we do well at keeping the small town care and customer service of our citizens. Just keeping that where we know each other, knowing that our this small town is just taken care of around that area. What we could do better would be, like she said, a frequent acknowledgement. And even though within the organization, we get those attaboys, but how can we bring that from the outside in, and let the citizens have that opportunity to say, hey, way to go, good job, kind of thing. Let's see, and across the board, I'm sure what we could do better is get the public involved in everything. Our next steps and where we can grow, we would like to educate the town staff and citizens about the town, just to get us more familiar with what's going on, what kind of the demographics and the people. We suggested a lunch and learn kind of thing. Let's see. Educate our staff on the rules and the laws of our historic area. Staff training and needs for our community and with the needs for our community and staff. And it was mentioned for an employee satisfaction survey. And then another thing that just something that we're dealing with, I guess a hurdle that we have is our competition with other municipalities. Anything to add?
Just a little more about the idea of a survey and the group. When we were talking about this, I mentioned it, but there's a really neat initiative out of the UNC School of Government called Local Government Workplaces, and there's a whole package that they provide. They'll come in. I'm sure Sky's probably seen about 25 presentations on this over the last couple of years, actually. But there's a variety of things that will happen in terms of surveys and getting a lot of feedback and done in a scientific and professional way that you don't have to have concerns about who's saying what. They take care of that for you. But then you wind up with a lot of good ideas and suggestions and feedback that you can use to make improvements. And it's a lot of it in the communities where they have done this work. A lot of it is around things like employee voice. Do they know that their voices are heard? And so that is an exciting thing to think about, is how we might take part in something like that. And it's helps us go to the next level and make sure that we're not just trying to maintain, but really understand what is keeping you here and what will continue to do that. So, because if we can avoid exit interviews and get into things more like stay interviews and understand that, that'll put us in a much better position.
Yeah. One last comment is this is my favorite activity. I love it, just getting to know the different, hearing the different perspectives and stuff like that. I think this has been very productive.
All right, community outreach and involvement.
So Sky and I are going to split this a little bit.
Right.
But so I feel like we also didn't quite do it as structured. At least my notes aren't quite as structured. But there was discussion about how things that have been working well is public art, our increased communication, but also ways that we can do that a little bit better. Perhaps covering things that have been done more afterwards, not just ahead of time trying to promote events, but also on that same token, in certain areas, promoting events more in advance than have been, to try to get the public, so that they know what's happening in enough time that they'll be able to hopefully attend. Let's see. And then I think the rest of it is pretty much the youth stuff.
Yep. So some of the feedback we got was to potentially start involving the young people of like North Lorraine High School more so in town hall events, but also potentially in committees where it is appropriate. Potentially like with the mural committee, that's like a great spot to start stepping in. But also potentially exploring the idea of a youth council, which would give them more access to staff. It would give them more access to all of you, and really give them a real life education about what local government does, what they don't do, and how they can be better civically minded people. And the feedback we got was people would very much like to have a guide for the murals to walk around in to better engage with the artwork, and that is definitely on my books, to investigate contractors and begin looking through there. But definitely getting the students more involved was a big piece of feedback.
That's great. I love the youth council idea. I think that's awesome.
Kind of a random note that I wrote down just because I thought of it. Maybe it's been discussed in the past, or maybe it's not even a helpful thing, but with talking about communication and community and the infrastructure and everything, maybe it would be possible, like I've seen, the signs of adopt a highway or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's even a thing that local government could have some sort of like adopt a street program or something to help. I don't know. It was just I wrote it down.
Absolutely. One of the other things I was going to say, related to like citizen community engagement, I'm really hoping that there's some good sessions at City Vision, Peter, that speak to that, what other communities have done, because I think we're always looking for new tips and tricks for ways to reach out, and I think it's evident here tonight. We've got one very, very dedicated citizen that has participated. Thank you, Leslie.
She's proof that we do communicate, right?
This is true. This is true.
Targeted, absolutely targeted.
But I think that's the reality, is making sure that we know that one communication method is not going to reach, may reach one person but not another, and we've got to cast a wide net. At the end of the day, all we can do is provide the opportunity. We can't force people to be here, but we do need that input. We need that participation, to know how our citizens want this town to be led, to be run and operated. And so I think whatever we can do to enhance getting that message out there is critical. And I will say, we've tried what seems like the only thing we haven't done is the town crier yet.
We're close to that, and we do have the long-awaited electronic sign.
Yes, that's exciting.
That will come as part of the park project.
And I think these the talk of the town is building on that series is going to be great. These neighborhood walks that we've talked about doing, trying to meet people where they are as opposed to asking them to come here on an evening. Those are the types of things we need to be doing. So I'm excited that we've got that in place. But again, if there are other strategies out there, we'd love to know what they are. Listen, I made that comment earlier. If you feed them, they will come.
Make sure it's on the electronic sign. Refreshment.
Well, so I think that covers everybody, right? Okay. Very good. We will dispense with comments from the mayor and the board. I think we've talked enough tonight. But Jeff, you want to real quickly walk us, and Peter, walk us through tomorrow's agenda, and then we can recess until tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, the agenda is welcome and review 8:45, and then the mayor is going to kick off and inspire us at 8:50, and then we'll get started right away with the presentations and discussion at 9. And as I said, I think one of my assignments is to keep us on schedule as much as possible, and then look forward to the tour of community assets and opportunities. And I believe we're going to have a lunch provided at the that's the Carter House. Is that correct?
The artist formerly known as the Carter House. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. And then we'll return and try to get started back. Return to town hall break 1 to 1:15 and have updates. And at 3:30 to 4:10, talk about establishing consensus on key priority updates, and hopefully be able to wrap up and adjourn by 4:15 or so. So we got a filled day tomorrow, and as I said earlier, I know everyone's staff's worked hard on their presentations, and let's be attentive to those, as I know you will, and just look forward to a filled day tomorrow.
The only thing I'll add is, so we will have refreshments available throughout the day, and kind of a continental breakfast available in the morning. That'll be available by around 8:30 or so, and that's when the building opens as well for the public to come in. But yeah, we'll be aiming to kick off around 8:45.
I was going to ask, most important question: will there be coffee?
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah,
There will be.
there's plentiful coffee, and
Wonderful.
we have mugs. You can bring your own. I think we have a few. I don't know how our supply of disposable type cups, but I think we have sufficient mugs to cover the need. So you can also bring your own mug if you like.
I'll run the dishwasher tonight.
There we go.
Thanks, Anna.
So I do have one request for our tour tomorrow, and hopefully this is doable. We were talking tonight, and one thing I don't see on here that I think would be great is if we can do a drive-by of the 2 properties that were on our CDBG project list that were just completed, so that we could just see those completed projects. Not that we have to stop, but that we can drive by them on our way between stops. Would that be possible?
I imagine so. We're talking about there's one at Grants Crossing, so we're going to be not far from there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I believe we may be able to see another on 4th Street. So
I think it would be fine. Obviously, for the sake of the anonymity of the household, drive by.
Yeah.
Right.
But with one of the properties, there's not much visible improvement except for, well, there are some impacts that really not actually handle that.
Okay.
But the other property, there was substantial support, renovation, roof, foundation, walls. That'll be a really great one.
Okay.
But I'll talk about the other one. Most of it was still
Perfect. Thank you. Nothing like throwing something on you at the last
and
minute.
the quicker if
idea.
we could somehow get ahead and load the trolley a couple minutes early, that'll probably help us squeeze that in.
Sounds great. We'll take a 5-minute break instead of a 15-minute break.
Good luck with that.
Very good. All right, so I think we've reached the end of our agenda for this evening, and so with that, we are recessed until tomorrow morning, and we will begin at 8:45. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.